Hello, hi, this is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about Wake Up Dead Man, which is the new Knives Out mystery that I saw at the Toronto Film Festival super early in the morning on a Sunday. Ryan Johnson was there to, premiere the film, and he explained, deeply that this film is basically a mixture of Agatha Christie novels and also Edgar Allan Poe novels.
Much for showing up in the morning. It's Sunday morning. You know what time it is. It's time for church. You guys ready for some churching?
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah. Again, I'll be very quick, but one of the things I love about the murder mystery genre, it has a very broad spectrum of tones and types of stories. And in this film series, we've done a cozy kind of family mystery a la Agatha Christie. We've done a big blowout vacation movie a la Last of Sheila. And with this one, we're kind of taking it back to the roots of the genre, which actually lie in Edgar Allan Poe. We're going to take some byways through John Dixon Carr, by way of G.K. Chesterton's Father Brown stories, and we are actually going to church. So I did this last night, but this could be a good thing to get us all kind of going.
And I will explain a little bit later why that is, because if you've seen the trailer that just dropped, actually like a day after I saw this film at Toronto Film Festival, you'll kind of understand why that is. But let me kind of like go super deep into like the cast, what this film is about, while also obviously not spoiling the mystery or the overall motive of what happened to some of the characters in this film. But yeah, let's like get into this. So Wake Up Dead Man stars Daniel Craig. He's returning as Benoit Blanc. You have Josh O'Connor, who plays a priest, who's basically the central character of this film. You basically follow him throughout the entire movie as he's trying to figure out what happened to one of his best friends or best people that he works with, played by Josh Brolin. It is, implied that Josh Brolin has died, but people don't know what happened. So basically Benoit Blanc has to come back to his senses and try to like figure out what's going on. But this time around, what's really surprising about this film is Benoit Blanc doesn't really understand how to actually go about with the mystery compared to the last two films, The Glass Onion and the original Knives Out, where he's just like, oh, I know this clue, this clue, this clue. I know where this leads to. But now he's just like, I don't know what to do. This is too hard. And just a lot of crazy stuff are like happening in between trying to like figure out what's happening. You have Glenn Close, who plays a nun, who is basically a person who has all the finances and helps out with Josh Brolin's character, who is the master priest and is the one who croaks. Mila Kunis plays a police officer. Jeremy Renner plays a family man. Kerry Washington plays a woman who has a son who's also a politician, and that failed politician tries to go back to the church to, spread the word of his religion. Then you have Andrew Scott, who's a novelist who is writing really shitty novels and tries to make a novel about the church. Haley Spaney plays a violinist who is injured and tries to, go to the religion to kind of heal herself. We have other characters like Thomas Hayden Church, who plays like a gardenist at the church, and he's like in the middle of the mix. And other cameos, which I will not spoil here, but yeah, man, this film is massively different than the last two films. Glass Onion was basically like a farcical mystery film where you already knew who did it, but you wanted to know how Benoit Blanc gets all the clues together. While this is completely opposite from the last film. Instead of having like the Columbo moments where Benoit Blanc would be like, hey, I kind of know what's happening here, let's kind of like dial it back. It's the other way around, where he doesn't understand what's happening and he doesn't know how to solve the mystery. And this really helps a lot with the film, where you're really like locked into trying to like figure out what happened to Josh Brolin's character. And then Josh O'Connor is basically, again, like the central focus of this film, where he plays this priest who lands at this small church. He tries to like figure out how to, be the best priest that he can. And he has a troubled past where he was a boxer and he killed someone in the ring, and he's trying to like redeem himself. So you have that central focus arc of him trying to like figure out what's happening with the mystery, but also at the same time, he's continuing to be kind of like frustrated with himself and just like the other people around him. And Josh O'Connor plays this character pretty fucking well. I think it's one of his best performances since Challengers and La Camera. And here he just plays this like character with such humility and like humanity that even when you like feel frustrated with his character, he does something different each time around, which makes you kind of like bring the whole like experience back to life. Daniel Craig once again performs pretty fucking well, and here he's more contour, more expressive compared to the last two films where sure he doesn't understand what's happening with like the mystery, but he's also just like still really good at like getting people to confess and also just like get into people's heads. And Daniel Craig, he's fantastic, like as always. And I would say the same with the rest of the cast. Glenn Close is fucking great. She does get a really great moment in this movie. I don't want to spoil it here, but it's a really great monologue, almost like an Oscar-worthy monologue, in my opinion. Josh Brolin plays himself, but at the same time, he's Josh Brolin. He's going to yell and be pissed off the whole time, but you're going to like eat it up. Same with like other characters like Andrew Scott. He plays himself, even though he plays like this like alt-right novelist who's like stuck writing blogs on Substack, and he wants to kind of branch out and go back to, you know, making great novels, but he can't because his fans are basically just like alt-right fuckers. Jeremy Renner is also great. Kerry Washington is also really good. I wasn't really a super big fan of Mila Kunis's performance in this. I thought she was kind of just a little bit flat. I would kind of say the same thing with some other characters in here that aren't really fully fledged out. But I think that's also just Kerry Washington. She kind of does like this weird like delivery with her mouth all the time, which I kind of like irritates me a little bit. But the character herself is actually really interesting. And then again, I can't really spoil the other cast in here because they're kind of like cameos, and it's just cool cameos that kind of like help the plot going. And going back to Rian Johnson and his direction in this film, it's extremely gothic and American tale where the whole setting is just like in a church, outside the church, around the church, and you're following all these people who are trying to, you know, be a part of like a religion for redemption and self-control. But some of the people who have used the religion are using it for good or evil, and Josh Brolin is the evil. So once he croaks, everybody just panics and tries to figure out how to go about with continuing their own perception of religion. And Josh O'Connor is like the perfect like mix of just like everything that happens in this film. So the only problem that I do have with this film is it goes on a little bit too long. There's a middle section where it kind of just like drags out a bit. There's kind of like a lull where you're trying to like figure out where is this film going, when is the mystery finally going to reveal itself, and then the third act hits, and then it basically turns into something more whole. And I think that was the problem that I had watching this for the first time, was just like the middle section being kind of just like, where's this going? Why is this kind of like stalling a bit? Sure, I really like all the, you know, the scenes Josh O'Connor is in and him going around this area trying to like figure out stuff, but again, I don't know where this is going. And then the third act hits and it's just like, okay, yeah, now I know where it's going. But yeah, overall, I think this is the most thematically rich Knives Out story that I've seen in this entry of films. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you're really into this franchise. You won't be disappointed. I think Rian Johnson pretty much was like, hey, like, I know Glass Onion wasn't like the best Knives Out movie. It was just one that I wanted to like have super fun with. But this one, I'm still having fun with it, but also at the same time, I want to have like more like themes going and more thought put to, you know, the film. And I think Rian Johnson succeeded all that in mind. So that's why I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 for now. But I think if I watch it again, I'll probably, you know, feel a little bit more whole with it. But even then, it's still a great, like, 4 out of 5 film. It's definitely, I think, as more time goes on, more, like, thoughts come into my mind. I think it's going to be way better than Glass Onion. But for now, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. As far as, you know, Oscar prospects, awards prospects, Golden Globes is the first entry that could get this film going. But I think the only thing that really could stand out as far as like nominations is just adapted screenplay, just like the last two films. I think this one could actually edge out to get another adapted screenplay nomination for the Oscars, but it really depends on like how the season is going. Personally, for me, I think this is far more better than the last screenplay he wrote for Knives Out, which was Glass Onion. But again, it just really depends whether or not Netflix is going to push this film out for the award season as far as getting past adapted screenplay, maybe for Best Picture. But we already saw this before last time with Glass Onion, where they tried super hard with it, especially with Janelle Monáe, and it just didn't work out. So I don't know, maybe it could work again this year. But yeah, this was a really solid movie. Definitely check it out when it comes out in select theaters, I think in November, and then December on Netflix. But I recommend it to see it in theaters. So yeah, thank you guys so much. More, Toronto Film Festival reviews are coming out. Stick around, keep an eye on that. Just, subscribe, like, do everything you can to spread the word out. Thank you guys. Peace out.